Hello boys, welcome back to another session of video tutorials, online video tutorials. And in this session we are going to talk about class 12th biology chapter 1, reproduction in organisms. And this video is meant for 23rd June 2021. And yesterday you may recollect from your memory that we were talking about various concepts related to this chapter, reproduction in organisms. And as you recollect, you may be getting to know that we have defined what is reproduction, types of reproduction, asexual reproduction or asexual reproduction, and sexual reproduction. As well, you may recollect that we were talking about various types of, again, under asexual reproduction or asexual reproduction. Basically, asexual reproduction refers to the production of offsprings. Offspring means children by a single parent without the formation and fusion of gametes. The offsprings receive all of their genes from one parent, so they are identical with each other, and the offsprings that are identical with each other, they are called clones. So this is important, this concept of clones. Asexual reproduction is also known as agamogenesis. Genesis means taking birth, to give rise to. Agamo, absence of gametes. What are gametes? Yesterday I told you gametes are reproductive cells, sex cells, like sperm is a gamete, ovum is a gamete, pollen grain is a gamete. So in the absence of these, if organisms undergo reproduction, then we say it is agamogenesis, or it is also called agamogeny. So multiplication occurs rapidly. This is the finest point, character of asexual reproduction. Multiplication occurs very rapidly and only mitotic division occurs. That's why they look each other. They are similar because of mitosis. Example, amoeba, euglena, hydra, potato, bryophyllum, various types of asexual reproduction are summarized below. Now, yesterday we talked about all this, and today I just wanted to show you some of the asexual reproduction, types of asexual reproduction with pictures. Now take for example fission, we said yesterday. Basically fission means division. It is breaking of body. Organism's body will be broken. It will be broken with two conditions. What is the first condition I said yesterday? First one is nuclear division. Nucleus of the organism will divide. As you are seeing, in the first diagram of amoeba, you can see round nucleus, right? And in the second diagram, you can see the nucleus is enlarging. And in the third diagram, you can see formation of two nuclei. So, in asexual reproduction, particularly fission, first there will be nuclear division. This nuclear division is called karyokinesis. Karyon in Latin means nucleus. Kinesis means breaking. Breaking of nucleus. Hence karyokinesis. So the moment nuclear division gets completed, simultaneously you can see constrictions of the body, organism's body. You can see the cytoplasmic wall being constructed. Plasma membrane is getting constricted. And finally, the division takes place, and from one parental cell, two daughter cells are formed. From one parental amoeba, you can see here, two daughter cells are formed. This process of breaking of cytoplasm as well as the cell is called, the nuclear division is karyokinesis, and the cellular division, karyokinesis, followed by the somatokinesis. Somatic body cells will be divided. Similarly, you can see in euglena. As usual, in the first diagram you can see round nucleus, spherical nucleus. In the second diagram you are seeing the nucleus is getting enlarged and breaking itself into two. So this is karyokinesis. And this is followed by cytoplasmic division, cytokinesis. The body is getting vertically divided. See, you can see the body from top to bottom is getting broken, and each broken part is becoming an adult euglena. So this is the characteristic of fission. And then yesterday I said second one is budding, and the very famous organism that can be recollected whenever we talk of budding is Hydra. In the first diagram you can see here in the Hydra there is an external growth projecting out, coming out, and this external growth is becoming enlarged and becoming big enough to have tentacles. And in the third diagram you can see almost a junior Hydra is being formed, and on maturity the junior Hydra gets cut off, falls into the place and starts growing. As you know, Hydra is aquatic, so once it gets detached from the parent, the offsprings will generate. Like this, in an adult Hydra we can see at a time 12 to 14 buds being formed. That means one Hydra at a given time can produce 12 to 14 children without involvement of gametes. This is asexual reproduction. Remember, we are talking about only body division, asexual reproduction. So budding refers to the process of formation of daughter individuals from a small projection or bud arising on the parental body, as you are seeing. So in the first diagram you can see a small projection grows on outer surface of the body. In the second diagram you are seeing the bud, that outer projection, grows externally. Remember, it is externally. And the third one, it splits away from parent and grows independently. You are seeing a daughter cell getting detached from the parental cell and forms separately, grows as an individual. And something similar to that happens in plants. We call it as fragmentation. So in this type of reproduction, parental body breaks into two or more pieces called fragments. See, it is something like a fission. There, the lower animals divide their body into two or more than two parts. If two parts are formed and from each part an individual arises, a new individual or new offspring arises, then we say binary fission. On the other hand, just like in some of the bacteria, some of the protozoans like Plasmodium, multiple fission takes place. The individual parental body divides into many parts. That's why we say multiple. Each part becomes an adult. So fission is having two types again: binary fission, multiple fission. If this happens in case of plants, then we say it is fragmentation. So in this type of reproduction, parental body breaks into two or more pieces called fragments. Each fragment develops into a new organism. In fragmentation, rate of reproduction is high. It occurs in flatworms, sea anemones, coelenterate, echinoderms, and remember, algae. In algae also like Spirogyra. Like he is giving the picture of the fragmentation process in Spirogyra. So you are seeing the tissue or a fragment, a ribbon-like structure, and this ribbon-like structure at a particular point develops a wall, septa. Septa means wall. So it divides the septa, cytoplasmic septa, divides the ribbon-like structure into two or more than two pieces. Wherever that septa is there, that portion becomes detached and forms separate one. As you are seeing, the one ribbon-like structure of Spirogyra, adult Spirogyra, breaks into two portions because of septa, and each portion becomes an adult Spirogyra. So most of the time we use this word fragmentation for plants, lower plants, and we use the word fission for lower animals. And then sporulation, that is spores. You see, Yesterday I said varieties of spores will be there, so I am giving this diagram so that you can have a better understanding of the concept. What is a spore? Again, spore is an asexual part that is generated either in a lower animal or plant, including the fungus. So, spores are minute, single-celled. Remember, they are small, very small. Sometimes we can't see them. We need microscope. They are small, single-celled, only one cell. Thin or thick-walled. Normally thin. When conditions become unfavorable, yesterday I said, you see, when conditions become unfavorable, the spore will develop 3 to 4 layers around it and becomes a cyst. And the cyst will survive in the unfavorable conditions as long as unfavorable conditions exist. And it doesn't keep quiet, it doesn't take rest. All through these unfavorable conditions, the cyst internally, cytoplasm, breaks and forms many divisions, cytoplasmic divisions. The moment conditions become favorable conditions return, the spore in the form of cyst will open up, all the layers will be broken up, and each cytoplasmic division becomes a new spore. That means thousands of spores will be released from the cyst. That's why I said when going gets tough, the tough gets going. When the conditions are not favorable, the spore becomes a cyst, and cyst gets on going with the many spores released from it. That is the thing that we should learn from these small organisms. We should not get disappointed or develop stress, anxiety, all this. Instead, we need to adapt ourselves to the environment and keep on going ahead. So, the spores are minute, single-celled, thin or thick-walled propagules which are dispersive structures. Because they are very light, a small volume of wind or breeze will take them to respective places. So these structures released from the parent body and form new individuals. Spore formation is very common in members of Monera, Protista, algae and fungi. Some of the commonly produced spores are zoospores, Canadia, Chimerospores, Oidea and Sporangiospores. Now the various types of spores we are giving examples. First one is the zoospore, that is in Chlamydomonas. You can see why is it called zoospore. Yesterday I told you any spore that has got locomotor organs, like you got cilia, so or flagella. If the spore is having cilia or flagella, and with the help of that cilia or flagella, if the spore moves, then we say it is a zoospore. Example, Chlamydomonas. And the structure that is bearing the zoospores is called zoosporangium. And second, conidiophore. Now look at that. Chains of conidia means there will be a series of spores at a particular structure. That's called conidiophore. We can see this in Penicillium. And the conidia group of spores will be falling down and germinate when the conditions are favorable and each one becomes an adult. And then chlamydospores. Here also you can see bunch of spores in Candida, and each chlamydospore on favorable conditions germinate and form an adult one. And agaricus, of course, you can see the whole structure is the main hypa or hypae becoming fragments, and each fragment is becoming a asexual part called oidea, a spore. And each oidea has the ability to generate into a new adult. And of course, very common one that we see even in our homes, Rhizopus. So Rhizopus has got what is called a round globe-like structure. It's called a sporangium. On maturity, dehiscence will take place. The sporangial layers will break off and release sporangiospores. So each sporangiospore will disperse from sporangium, fall into, say, a moist place, and the moment it finds a moist place, each sporangiophore starts generating into a new adult Rhizopus. So this is how the spores will help in increasing the numbers. And not to forget, there is a special ability by some organisms. Of course, this ability is restricted to some organisms, like for example Planaria, Hydra, and if you may recollect, yesterday I told starfish. You can see here that these organisms have the special ability to regain the last parts. So the special ability to regain the last part is called regeneration. Again and again, generation, producing. What is producing again and again? The part that is lost. So here it refers to the growth of new tissues or organs to replace lost or damaged part. Now you can see in Planaria the whole body is dividing into two parts, and each part, look at that, each part is becoming a adult or new Planaria. Similar is the case with Hydra. Hydra's body is getting cut, and the cut portion, each portion is generating a new Hydra. So this is a special ability, and we must feel jealous about these organisms, because if someone cuts us into pieces, we cannot regenerate ourselves. Only we have got restricted regenerating ability in the form of nails. We can cut the nails, they regrow. Skin has any damage, comes back. Hairs, of course, barber is busy, monthly once. And some of the structures like bones internally, 21 days, it recoups. So only certain organs present in our body exhibit regeneration, but as a total, as a human being, as a total human being, we can't. That is our inability. Whereas certain organisms like starfish, Planaria, Hydra have the ability to reproduce whole organism from one small piece. So this is the greatness of lower organisms. We'll see further in our next session, vegetative reproduction. Until then, keep on